Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the bathroom mirror in her cramped apartment, staring at a face that looked far too young for someone who had commanded entire star fleets. At 19, she possessed tactical brilliance that had saved humanity 3 times over, but she couldn't figure out how to use a curling iron without burning herself. The Galactic Council had been very clear during her forced retirement ceremony 6 months ago. Her age made other species uncomfortable. A human teenager directing massive space battles violated their understanding of natural order. Despite her unprecedented success rate, they insisted she needed to experience a normal young adult life before returning to active duty. Sarah grabbed her backpack, checking the contents one more time. Notebooks, pens, a calculator that seemed absurdly primitive compared to the quantum computers she was used to. Today marked her first day at New Geneva University, where she would pretend to be an ordinary freshman studying astrophysics. The irony wasn't lost on her. She had personally witnessed the birth of 3 new star systems, negotiated peace treaties with crystalline entities that existed in 11 dimensions, and calculated jump coordinates while enemy plasma burned through her flagship's hull. Now she was supposed to get excited about learning basic orbital mechanics from a professor who had never left Earth's atmosphere. Her phone buzzed with a message from her assigned roommate, Jessica.
"Can't wait to meet you."
"I brought snacks for our first night. Hope you like pizza rolls." Sarah smiled despite herself. Jessica's enthusiasm reminded her of the young ensigns who used to serve on her bridge crew. They always brought such genuine excitement to everything, even routine sensor sweeps. Maybe this wouldn't be completely terrible. The university campus sprawled across several city blocks, filled with students who looked exactly like Sarah, but carried themselves with the carefree energy she had never experienced. They laughed loudly, walked in meandering groups, and seemed utterly unconcerned about strategic positioning or escape routes. Sarah found herself automatically cataloging defensive positions and calculating optimal evacuation patterns as she walked. The dining hall could hold approximately 800 people but only had 4 exits, creating a dangerous bottleneck in case of emergency. The library's elevated position provided excellent sightlines across the main quad, perfect for reconnaissance or sniper positions. She forced herself to stop thinking like a military commander and focus on acting like a normal teenager. This proved more challenging than outmaneuvering a Vorthon battlecruiser. Her dorm building rose 12 stories high, constructed with the kind of basic materials that would never survive a plasma bombardment. Sarah climbed to the 8th floor, finding room 847 where her new civilian life would begin. Jessica turned out to be a petite redhead with more energy than a fusion reactor. She bounced off her bed when Sarah entered, immediately launching into rapid-fire questions about Sarah's hometown, her major, whether she had a boyfriend, and if she wanted to go to a party that very night. "I'm from the outer colonies," Sarah said carefully, sticking to the cover story the council had provided. "My parents work in mining operations. Pretty isolated, so I'm still getting used to being around so many people." This wasn't entirely false. The outer colonies did exist, and Sarah had spent considerable time protecting their mining operations from raiders. She simply omitted the part about commanding the protection fleets. "That explains why you seem so serious," Jessica said, studying Sarah's face. "Don't worry, college will loosen you up. Everyone's super friendly here. Well, except for Professor Martinez in advanced calculus. He's a total nightmare, but his class is required for the astrophysics track." Sarah nodded politely while mentally noting that Professor Martinez probably hadn't dealt with anything more challenging than unruly undergraduates. She had once negotiated a ceasefire with hostile aliens while their mothership's weapons remained locked onto her bridge. That evening, Jessica dragged Sarah to what she called a casual get-together in the common room. Approximately 30 students had gathered to eat pizza and play something called beer pong, though Sarah noticed very little actual beer consumption. The entire event would have been a security nightmare in any civilized sector of the galaxy. "So what's your story, mysterious transfer student?" asked a lanky boy named Marcus, settling beside Sarah on the worn couch. "Jessica says you're from some remote mining colony." That must have been rough. Sarah considered her response carefully. "It taught me self-reliance. We had to handle our own problems out there. No one else was coming to help." "Sounds lonely," said a girl named Rachel, joining their conversation. "But hey, you're here now. College is where you get to reinvent yourself, try new things, make mistakes without any real consequences." The phrase "no real consequences" made Sarah's eye twitch slightly. In her experience, every decision carried massive consequences. One miscalculation could result in the loss of entire star systems, the deaths of millions, or the collapse of interstellar alliances. But she forced herself to smile and nod. "I'm looking forward to experiencing normal teenage life," Marcus laughed. "Normal is overrated. Wait until midterms hit. Then you'll see some real chaos." Sarah doubted that academic stress could compare to coordinating a 12-fleet battle formation while enemy reinforcements dropped out of hyperspace, but she kept this observation to herself. As the evening progressed, she found herself studying her new peers like an anthropologist examining an alien culture. They worried about things like upcoming tests, weekend plans, and whether someone they liked would text them back. Their concerns seemed simultaneously trivial and precious. These young humans lived without the constant weight of species survival on their shoulders. They could afford to care about small things because others had ensured their safety. Sarah realized she had been one of those others, fighting in the dark so people like Jessica and Marcus could attend pizza parties without fear. The thought brought an unexpected warmth to her chest. This was what she had been protecting all along. Not just planets or trade routes or political alliances, but the right of young humans to be silly and carefree and wonderfully, beautifully normal. Maybe the Galactic Council had been right about one thing. Perhaps she did need to understand what she was fighting for on a more personal level. As she walked back to her dorm room that night, Sarah made a decision. For the next year, she would genuinely try to be a normal college student. She would attend classes, make friends, maybe even go to more parties. She would learn what it meant to live without the weight of command. But she would also stay ready, because somewhere out in the vast darkness of space, threats were always gathering. And when they came, Sarah Chen would be prepared to once again take her place among the stars. 3 weeks into her college experience, Sarah discovered that pretending to be normal required more acting skills than she possessed. Her astrophysics professor had just finished explaining stellar formation in terms so simplified that Sarah wanted to raise her hand and correct him based on her first-hand observations of 12 different starbirths. Instead, she dutifully took notes and tried to look appropriately amazed when Professor Williams described theoretical concepts that Sarah had implemented in real combat situations. The irony of learning about gravitational slingshot maneuvers from someone who had never calculated them while dodging enemy fire was almost painful. "Earth to Sarah," Jessica whispered during the lecture. "You're doing that thing again where you look like you're planning a military campaign." Sarah forced her expression to relax. "Sorry, just really interested in the material." "Interested is one thing. You look like you're about to take over the lecture and draw battle plans on the whiteboard." This observation was uncomfortably accurate. Sarah had been mentally redesigning Professor Williams's orbital mechanics diagrams to show more efficient attack vectors. Old habits from her command days were proving difficult to suppress. After class, she joined her study group in the library. The group consisted of Jessica, Marcus, Rachel, and 2 other students named David and Emma. They had formed the group after struggling with their first quantum physics assignment, and Sarah had reluctantly agreed to participate in the name of normal social integration. "Okay, so I'm completely lost on this wave-particle duality stuff," Marcus announced, spreading his textbook across the table. "How can something be both a wave and a particle? It doesn't make sense." Sarah bit her tongue to prevent herself from launching into an explanation about quantum field manipulations and how understanding wave-particle duality was essential for navigating hyperspace. Instead, she waited for someone else to respond. "Think of it like this," David said, sketching a diagram. "It's not that electrons are both waves and particles simultaneously. It's that they exhibit different properties depending on how we observe them." "That's still confusing," Emma complained. "Why would our observation change what something is?" Sarah found herself speaking before she could stop herself. "It's not about changing what something is. It's about the fundamental nature of reality being more complex than our everyday experience suggests. At quantum scales, the act of measurement necessarily interacts with the system being measured, revealing different aspects of its underlying nature." The entire group stared at her. Jessica raised an eyebrow. "Wow, Sarah, that was surprisingly sophisticated for someone who's supposedly seeing this material for the first time." Sarah's cheeks reddened. "I did a lot of independent reading back home. Not much else to do on a mining colony." What kind of mining operation has advanced physics textbooks? Rachel asked with genuine curiosity. Sarah scrambled for a plausible explanation. My parents worked in quantum crystalline extraction. They needed to understand subatomic properties to identify valuable deposits. I grew up around their technical manuals. This was technically true, though Sarah omitted that her understanding came from using quantum crystals to power interstellar weapon systems rather than mining them. Marcus looked impressed. No wonder you're acing all the assignments. You've got a head start on the rest of us. Speaking of assignments, Jessica said, pulling out her tablet, Professor Martinez posted our midterm project requirements. We need to calculate theoretical trajectories for a Mars colony supply mission. Sarah's pulse quickened. Orbital mechanics and supply route planning were exactly the kind of problem she had solved countless times, usually under enemy fire with the lives of entire colonies hanging in the balance. But she couldn't demonstrate her true expertise without raising suspicions. This looks really complicated, she said, forcing uncertainty into her voice. I mean, you have to account for planetary rotation, gravitational influences from other bodies, fuel consumption rates. Exactly, David groaned. There are so many variables. How are we supposed to figure this out? Sarah watched her friend struggle with concepts that seemed elementary to her. She had personally planned supply runs to Mars, Jupiter's moons, and star systems dozens of light years away. But here she sat, pretending that calculating a simple Earth-to-Mars trajectory was challenging. Maybe we should break it down into smaller pieces, she suggested carefully. Start with basic orbital mechanics and work our way up to the more complex interactions. Over the next 2 hours, Sarah guided her study group through the problem, while maintaining the illusion that she was learning alongside them. She asked leading questions that helped them discover solutions, offered guesses that happened to be correct, and expressed appropriate surprise when their calculations worked out. It was exhausting. Command decisions had been straightforward by comparison. When enemy fleets attacked, she could respond with overwhelming force and tactical brilliance. But navigating social relationships while hiding her true capabilities required a delicate balance she was still learning. That evening, Sarah sat alone in her dorm room, staring at her reflection in the darkened window. Outside, she could see other students walking across campus, laughing and talking about normal college concerns. She envied their simplicity even as she treasured it. Her secure communicator, hidden inside what appeared to be a regular smartphone, chimed softly with an encrypted message from Admiral Torres, her former second-in-command. The Galactic Council had approved limited communication with her old crew, understanding that complete isolation might prove psychologically damaging. Sarah, hope you're adjusting well to civilian life. Wanted to update you on fleet movements. The Vorthans are showing increased activity near the Centauri system, but nothing we can't handle. Captain Rodriguez is doing well in temporary command of your old flagship, though he keeps asking what you would do in various situations. The crew misses your strategic insights. Stay safe and enjoy being a normal student. Torres out. Sarah smiled at the message while feeling a sharp pang of longing. She missed the weight of command, the clarity of purpose, the satisfaction of protecting humanity's interests across the galaxy. Her current life felt hollow by comparison, filled with artificial problems and manufactured challenges. But then she thought about Jessica's genuine excitement over acing a physics quiz, Marcus's pride in finally understanding quantum mechanics, and Rachel's dreams of becoming an astrophysicist. These weren't artificial problems to them. This was their real life, their authentic experience of growing and learning. Sarah was getting a glimpse into the lives of the people she had spent years protecting. They faced genuine struggles, even if those struggles seemed small compared to interstellar warfare. Their hopes and fears and dreams were real, even if they didn't involve coordinating fleet movements or negotiating with alien species. She was beginning to understand that her forced retirement wasn't just about making other species comfortable with her age. It was about helping her remember why humanity was worth protecting in the first place. A knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. Jessica peeked in, carrying 2 cups of hot chocolate and wearing fuzzy slippers that would have violated every military dress code in the galaxy. Study break? Jessica offered, settling cross-legged on Sarah's bed. You looked pretty intense during our group session today. Sometimes I forget you're only 19 like the rest of us. You seem so much more mature. Sarah accepted the hot chocolate gratefully. Growing up in isolation tends to make you serious. Well, you're not isolated anymore, Jessica said firmly. You've got us now. We're your people, whether you like it or not. For the first time in months, Sarah felt genuinely happy. She had commanded the loyalty of thousands of officers and crew members. But Jessica's friendship was freely given, based on nothing more than shared experiences and mutual affection. Maybe this normal life thing had more value than she had initially realized. Sarah's carefully constructed normal life began unraveling on a Tuesday morning during advanced orbital mechanics class. Professor Williams was demonstrating a particularly complex gravitational assist calculation when his tablet malfunctioned, leaving half the equation incomplete on the holographic display. Well, this is embarrassing, he muttered, tapping frantically at his device. The system seems to have crashed right in the middle of our Mars-Jupiter transfer calculation. I suppose we'll have to continue this tomorrow when I can get technical support to fix the display. Sarah watched 23 students pack their belongings, preparing to waste an entire class period because of a simple technical failure. In her former life, such inefficiency would have been unthinkable. Fleet operations required adaptability and resourcefulness, not surrender at the first sign of equipment problems. Professor Williams, she heard herself saying, I think I can finish the calculation manually if you'd like. The professor looked surprised. That's ambitious, Miss Chen, but this is quite complex. We're dealing with multiple gravitational influences, variable thrust vectors, and fuel optimization constraints. I understand, Sarah replied, moving toward the whiteboard before she could stop herself. We start with the basic two-body problem between Earth and Mars, then add Jupiter's gravitational influence as a perturbation factor. Her hands moved across the whiteboard with practiced precision, writing equations that she had used countless times to navigate real spacecraft through real gravity wells. She incorporated fuel consumption rates, trajectory optimization, and even accounted for solar wind effects that weren't covered in the textbook. The classroom fell silent except for the sound of her marker on the board. Sarah found herself lost in the familiar rhythm of calculation, the same mental flow state she had experienced while coordinating complex fleet maneuvers under pressure. Now, if we optimize for minimum energy expenditure while maintaining arrival window constraints, she continued, adding a series of differential equations, we get a trajectory that actually uses 14.7% less fuel than the standard Hohmann transfer approach. She stepped back, suddenly realizing that 23 pairs of eyes were staring at her in amazement. Professor Williams approached the board slowly, checking her calculations with the expression of someone who had discovered something impossible. Miss Chen, he said carefully, this is graduate-level work. These optimization techniques aren't covered until advanced spacecraft design courses. Where exactly did you learn this? Sarah's mouth went dry. She had just demonstrated knowledge that no normal undergraduate should possess, let alone a freshman who supposedly came from an isolated mining colony. Her cover story was crumbling in real time. I did a lot of independent study, she stammered. My parents had some advanced technical manuals and I've always been good with math. This isn't just advanced math, Professor Williams said, his voice gaining intensity. This is practical spacecraft navigation. These aren't theoretical calculations. They're the kind of real-world computations used by actual flight controllers. Jessica leaned over to whisper in Sarah's ear. Girl, what aren't you telling us? Because mining colony kids don't usually know more about orbital mechanics than their professors. Sarah felt panic rising in her chest. She had trained for hostile interrogations, diplomatic negotiations, and battlefield commands. But she had never prepared for maintaining a civilian cover story while surrounded by curious friends. I should go, she said abruptly, gathering her belongings. I'm not feeling well. She practically ran from the classroom, ignoring Professor Williams calling after her and Jessica's concerned shouts. Her heart pounded as she navigated the campus corridors, seeking somewhere private to collect herself and figure out how to salvage her situation. The problem wasn't just academic curiosity. If Professor Williams decided to investigate her background more thoroughly, he might discover inconsistencies in her cover story. And if word spread about her unusual knowledge, it could attract attention from parties who weren't supposed to know about her forced retirement. Sarah found herself in the campus botanical garden, a quiet space filled with earth plants that reminded her of the hydroponics bays on her former flagship. She sat on a bench beneath a large oak tree, trying to calm her racing thoughts. Her communicator chimed with another encrypted message from Admiral Torres. Sarah, we've detected unusual scanning activity near Earth's outer sensor grid. Probably just routine alien patrol sweeps, but wanted you to be aware. Also, Commander Hassan sends his regards and hopes you're enjoying your studies. Stay vigilant, but try not to worry. Torres out. The timing couldn't have been worse. Unusual alien activity near Earth, combined with her slip-up in class, created a situation that required careful handling. Sarah had to maintain her cover while staying alert for potential threats to her home planet. Her thoughts were interrupted by footsteps on the gravel path. Jessica approached hesitantly, carrying Sarah's backpack that she had left behind in her hasty retreat. "Hey," Jessica said softly, sitting beside her on the bench. "Want to talk about what just happened back there?" Sarah considered her options. She could maintain her increasingly implausible cover story, confess part of the truth, or deflect with another excuse. None of these choices seemed particularly good. "I'm not who you think I am," she said finally. "I figured that much out," Jessica replied with a gentle smile. "The question is, who are you really? And please don't tell me you're some kind of genius child prodigy, because that's almost as hard to believe as the mining colony story." Sarah laughed despite her stress. "It's more complicated than that. Most interesting things are. Look, I don't care if you're a secret genius or a runaway heiress or whatever. You're my friend. That's what matters to me." The simple statement hit Sarah harder than she expected. In her former life, relationships had been built on military hierarchy, shared missions, and mutual professional respect. But Jessica was offering friendship based on nothing more than personal affection. "What if I told you that I used to have a really important job?" Sarah asked carefully. "Something that required a lot of responsibility and specialized knowledge. But now I'm trying to live a normal life for a while." "Like what, CIA operative?" Jessica joked, then paused when she saw Sarah's expression. "Wait, you're serious? Are you some kind of spy?" "Not exactly," Sarah said. "More like military command. But I can't talk about the details." This was technically true, though Sarah suspected Jessica was picturing something more conventional than interstellar fleet operations. "How old were you when you had this important military job?" Jessica asked. "Young. Too young, according to some people. That's why I'm here now, learning to be a normal teenager." Jessica processed this information quietly. "That explains a lot, actually. The way you carry yourself, how you automatically scan rooms when you enter them, your reaction to crowded spaces. You have the bearing of someone who's used to being in charge." Sarah was impressed by her friend's observational skills. "You noticed all that?" "I noticed lots of things about people I care about. The question is, what happens now?" "Are you going back to your military job eventually?" "Probably," Sarah admitted. "When I'm older and other people feel more comfortable with the idea." "Well then," Jessica said, standing up and offering Sarah her hand. "We'd better make sure you get the full college experience while you're here. Can't have you going back to save the world without learning how to properly procrastinate on homework and stay up too late eating pizza." Sarah took her friend's hand, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the afternoon sun. Perhaps her cover was blown, but she had gained something more valuable than any disguise. She had found someone who accepted her for who she really was. Complicated history and all. "There's one more thing," Sarah said as they walked back toward campus. "If any strangers start asking questions about me, or if you notice anything unusual happening around the university, will you let me know immediately?" "Why, are you expecting trouble?" Sarah thought about the alien scanning activity near Earth's outer sensors. "I hope not. But it's always better to be prepared." Jessica grinned. "See, this is exactly the kind of thing that makes being your friend interesting. Normal people don't have to worry about mysterious strangers asking questions." Sarah smiled back, though part of her remained alert for signs of danger. Her normal life was becoming more complicated, but perhaps that wasn't entirely a bad thing. The strange visitors arrived on a Thursday, 3 days after Sarah's revelation to Jessica. They appeared ordinary enough. 2 individuals in business suits claiming to be representatives from an educational research foundation, asking Professor Williams about exceptional students in his program. Sarah only learned about their visit because Marcus happened to overhear part of their conversation while waiting outside the professor's office. According to Marcus, they had shown particular interest in students who demonstrated unusual aptitude in advanced concepts. Professor Williams mentioned your name specifically, Marcus told her during lunch. Said you showed remarkable intuitive understanding of spacecraft navigation. The visitors seemed really interested in that. Sarah's blood ran cold. Educational researchers didn't typically investigate students who were good at math. These visitors sounded more like intelligence operatives conducting background checks, which meant someone suspected her true identity. Did you see what they looked like? She asked, trying to keep her voice casual. Pretty normal, I guess, though there was something weird about them. They both had the same kind of posture, like they were military or something. And one of them had these really pale eyes that seemed almost silver eyes. Sarah's training immediately identified the description. Andromedans had naturally silver irises, and their operatives were known for conducting reconnaissance missions while disguised as humans. If Andromedan agents were investigating her, it meant the Galactic Council's attempt to keep her retirement quiet had failed. Sarah? Jessica's voice cut through her racing thoughts. You look like you just saw a ghost. I need to make a phone call, Sarah said, standing abruptly. I'll catch up with you guys later. She hurried to her dorm room and activated her secure communicator, sending an emergency message to Admiral Torres. Possible hostile surveillance. 2 agents questioned my professor about exceptional students. 1 described with silver eyes. Request immediate situation assessment and guidance. The response came within minutes. Confirmed Andromedan intelligence activity detected near Earth. Multiple teams conducting reconnaissance. Purpose unknown but assume hostile intent. Maintain cover but prepare for extraction if necessary. Council authorization pending. Stay alert. Sarah stared at the message, feeling the familiar weight of command responsibility settling back onto her shoulders. Her peaceful college life was about to end, and her friends would be caught in the middle unless she handled this situation carefully. A knock on her door interrupted her planning. She quickly hid the communicator and opened the door to find Jessica standing in the hallway with an expression of determined concern. Okay, spill it, Jessica said, pushing past Sarah into the room. Don't try to tell me this is normal college drama. You went from relaxed to battle-ready in about 3 seconds when Marcus mentioned those visitors. Sarah closed the door and activated the privacy lock, a precaution that felt natural after years of handling classified information. The visitors who were asking about me aren't what they claim to be. How do you know? Because people with silver eyes aren't human, Sarah said bluntly. They're from a species called Andromedans, and they're probably here to confirm my identity. Jessica sat down heavily on Sarah's bed. Okay, I was prepared for you to be some kind of military prodigy, but aliens? You're talking about actual extraterrestrial beings. Earth has been part of a galactic community for about 15 years, Sarah explained. The general public doesn't know, because world governments decided the information would cause too much social disruption. But yes, aliens are real, and some of them aren't particularly friendly. And you were in the military fighting against these aliens? Not exactly fighting against them. More like protecting human interests in a complex political environment. Think of it as interstellar diplomacy backed by strategic force projection. Jessica rubbed her temples. My roommate is a teenage space admiral. This is not how I expected college to go. Former space admiral, Sarah corrected. And I was never actually an admiral. My official rank was commander, though I held fleet command authority in certain situations. That doesn't make it less insane, Jessica said. How old were you when you started commanding spaceships? 16 when I received my first independent command. 17 when I was given fleet authority. 18 when I successfully defended the Tau Ceti system against a full-scale invasion. No wonder the other aliens think you're too young for the job. Most 18-year-olds can barely manage their laundry. Sarah smiled despite the tension. That's exactly what the Galactic Council said. They insisted I needed to experience normal adolescent development before returning to active duty. So what happens now? Do these Andromedan agents want to kidnap you or something? I don't know their intentions yet, Sarah admitted. But their presence here suggests that someone in the galactic community is reconsidering my forced retirement. Either they want me back in active service or they want to make sure I never return to active service. Jessica's eyes widened as she grasped the implications. You mean they might try to kill you? It's possible. Interstellar politics can be quite ruthless. Then we need to get you out of here. Call your admiral friend and have them extract you to somewhere safe. Sarah was touched by Jessica's immediate protective instinct, but extraction wasn't that simple. I can't just disappear without endangering everyone I've interacted with here, If hostile agents are looking for me, they might interrogate my friends and professors to gather information. So what's the alternative? I handle this the way I would handle any tactical situation. Gather intelligence, assess the threat level, and respond accordingly. How exactly does a college freshman gather intelligence on alien spies? Sarah opened her closet and pulled out what appeared to be a standard laptop bag. Inside, hidden beneath textbooks and notebooks, was a collection of equipment that definitely hadn't come from the university bookstore. I'm not just any college freshman, she said, assembling what looked like a sophisticated scanner from several innocuous components. And I didn't come here completely unprepared. Jessica watched in fascination as Sarah activated the device. Is that some kind of alien detector? Biometric scanner with species identification protocols. If there are non-humans on campus, this will find them. The scanner immediately identified 17 distinct life signs within its range. 15 registered as human. One showed up as an unclassified feline entity, which was probably the campus stray cat that lived near the dining hall. The 17th signature made Sarah's breath catch. What is it? Jessica asked, noticing her expression. Andromedan biosignature in the administration building. Based on the thermal pattern, they're in the registrar's office. Looking at your student records, most likely. Which means they're trying to confirm details about my background that don't add up. Sarah began packing her equipment with efficient, practiced movements. I need to get to that office and find out exactly what they're after. But first I need to make sure you're safe. I'm not going anywhere, Jessica said firmly. If you're in danger, then we face it together. This isn't a movie, Jess. These beings have technology and capabilities that could seriously hurt you. And you're 19 years old, just like me. If you can handle alien spies, then so can I. Sarah paused in her packing, struck by the simple truth of that statement. She had been so focused on protecting everyone around her that she had forgotten her friends might be capable of protecting themselves. All right, she said finally, but we do this my way. No heroics, no unnecessary risks. Our goal is information gathering, not confrontation. I can work with that. What's the plan? Sarah smiled, feeling the familiar thrill of operational planning. First, we figure out exactly what these Andromedans want. Then we decide whether to fight or run. For the first time in months, she felt like herself again. Commander Sarah Chen was back in action, even if her battlefield was now a college campus and her backup was the enthusiastic astrophysics student with no combat training. Somehow, that didn't make the situation any less dangerous. The administration building after hours felt like enemy territory. Sarah and Jessica moved through dimly lit corridors with the careful precision of a reconnaissance mission, though Sarah had to repeatedly remind herself that her backup was an enthusiastic college student rather than a trained operative. The registrar's office is on the 3rd floor, Jessica whispered as they climbed the emergency stairwell. But how are we supposed to get inside? Those doors have electronic locks. Sarah pulled a small device from her jacket pocket, military-grade bypass scanner. It can crack most civilian security systems in under 30 seconds. Of course you have alien lockpicks, Jessica muttered. Is there any normal college equipment in your room, or is it all secret agent stuff? I do have regular textbooks, Sarah said defensively. I'm genuinely trying to learn about normal student life. They reached the 3rd floor without incident. Sarah's scanner confirmed that the Andromedan biosignature was no longer in the building, which meant the agents had finished their investigation and left. This was both good news and bad news. Good because they wouldn't have to deal with hostile aliens. Bad because it meant the agents had likely found whatever information they were seeking. The registrar's office lock yielded to Sarah's bypass scanner in 23 seconds. They slipped inside quietly, using Jessica's phone flashlight to navigate between filing cabinets and computer terminals. What exactly are we looking for? Jessica asked. Evidence of what they accessed? Computer logs, disturbed files? Anything that might tell us what information they gathered. Sarah activated her scanner again, this time configured to detect residual energy signatures from alien technology. Andromedans used quantum-encrypted data extraction tools that left distinctive electromagnetic traces for several hours after use. There, she said, pointing to one of the computer terminals. They accessed that workstation approximately 2 hours ago. Based on the energy pattern, they performed a comprehensive data download. Downloaded what? Sarah sat down at the terminal and activated another piece of her hidden equipment, a quantum decryption device disguised as a USB drive. Let's find out. Within minutes, she had bypassed the university's security and accessed the terminal's activity logs. What she found made her stomach sink. They downloaded everything, she said grimly. Student records, faculty files, course schedules, financial aid information. But they spent the most time on my personal file. What's in your file that would interest them? Sarah scrolled through the downloaded data, seeing her carefully constructed false identity laid bare. My cover story, academic transcripts, emergency contact information. But also something else. She highlighted a section of code that didn't belong in a normal student record. This is a Galactic Council tracking identifier. It's supposed to be invisible to alien scanners, but the Andromedans have better technology than we expected. So they know who you really are. They know I'm not Sarah Chen from a mining colony. Whether they've identified me as Commander Chen of the Terran Defense Fleet depends on how sophisticated their intelligence networks are. Jessica sat down heavily in a nearby chair. This is really happening, isn't it? Alien spies are hunting my roommate because she used to command space fleets. I'm afraid so, and now that they've confirmed my location, they'll either report back to their superiors or take direct action. What kind of direct action? Before Sarah could answer, her scanner detected multiple biosignatures approaching the building. 7 distinct entities, 4 human and 3 Andromedan, moving with the coordinated precision of a tactical team. The kind where they come back with reinforcements, Sarah said, quickly packing her equipment. We need to leave now. They moved toward the office door, but Sarah's scanner showed the approaching team had already entered the building and was covering all primary exit routes. The emergency stairwell they had used was now blocked by 2 agents, while the main staircase was covered by 3 more. There's another way out, Jessica said. The maintenance access tunnel in the basement. It connects to the steam distribution system that runs under most of the campus. You know about secret tunnels? I dated a guy who worked campus maintenance last semester. He showed me all the hidden passages when we were sneaking around after curfew. Sarah revised her opinion of Jessica's tactical value upward. Lead the way. They made their way to the basement using a service elevator that Jessica accessed with a maintenance key she had apparently kept as a souvenir from her relationship. The basement felt like the bowels of a starship, filled with pipes, electrical conduits, and the hum of essential systems. There, Jessica pointed to a heavy metal door marked, Authorized Personnel Only. That leads to the steam tunnels. They run all the way to the power plant on the other side of campus. Sarah's scanner showed the Andromedan team had reached the 3rd floor and discovered their presence in the registrar's office. They would soon begin a systematic search of the building. The steam tunnel was hot, cramped, and filled with the sound of rushing water and mechanical noise that would mask their movement. They crawled through the narrow passage, Jessica leading the way with her phone's flashlight while Sarah monitored their pursuers. How far to the power plant? Sarah whispered. About half a mile. There are 3 branch tunnels we can take if we need alternate routes. Sarah was impressed by Jessica's knowledge of the campus infrastructure. You really did thorough reconnaissance of this place. Tommy was very enthusiastic about showing off his access to restricted areas. I thought it was romantic at the time. Now I'm just grateful for the tactical intelligence. They emerged from the tunnel system at the power plant, which sat on the edge of campus near the main road. Sarah's scanner showed their pursuers were still searching the administration building, giving them a temporary head start. Now what? Jessica asked. Do we call for backup? Contact your Admiral friend? Sarah activated her secure communicator and sent a priority message to Admiral Torres. Blown cover. Multiple Andromedan agents in pursuit. Request immediate extraction authorization. The response came back within seconds. Extraction not authorized. Galactic Council orders are to maintain civilian status. However, you are cleared to defend yourself using appropriate force if directly threatened. Appropriate force? Sarah muttered. What does that even mean in this context? It means they want you to handle this without starting an interstellar incident, Jessica said, reading over her shoulder. Right? Essentially, yes. I'm authorized to protect myself but not to escalate the situation into open conflict between species. So we're on our own. Sarah considered their options. They could run, but the Andromedans would eventually track them down. They could hide, but that was only a temporary solution. Or they could turn the tables and go on the offensive. Not necessarily, Sarah said, a plan beginning to form. The Andromedans are operating covertly on Earth, which means they can't risk exposure any more than I can. They need to handle this quietly. What are you thinking? I'm thinking it's time to remind them that there's a reason the Galactic Council was worried about putting me back in active duty. Sarah pulled out her communicator and sent another message, this time to a different recipient. Marcus, this is Sarah. I need you to gather everyone from our study group and meet me at the observatory in 1 hour. Tell them it's urgent, but don't mention specifics. And Marcus? Trust me on this. You're calling in our friends? Jessica asked. Sarah, they're not soldiers. They're just college students. Exactly, Sarah said with a smile that would have been familiar to her former crew. And that's going to be our advantage. For the first time since the crisis began, Sarah felt the familiar confidence of command settling over her. She had spent months learning to be a normal college student. Now it was time to show these Andromedan agents what a normal college student could accomplish, when she happened to be a former fleet commander with very intelligent friends. The university observatory sat on top of the physics building like a metallic crown, its dome silhouetted against the night sky. Sarah had chosen it as their meeting point for several strategic reasons. The building had multiple access routes. The observatory itself provided excellent sight lines across campus, and most importantly, it was a place where college students gathering at night wouldn't seem suspicious. Marcus, David, Emma, and Rachel arrived within minutes of each other, all looking confused and slightly worried. Sarah watched them from the observatory's main viewing platform, using her scanner to confirm they hadn't been followed by the Andromedan agents. Okay, Sarah, Marcus said as the group assembled around the main telescope. Your message sounded pretty urgent. What's going on? Sarah looked at her friends, really looked at them, seeing not just fellow students but individuals with unique skills and capabilities. Marcus was a computer science major with an intuitive understanding of complex systems. David studied materials engineering and had a gift for improvised solutions. Emma specialized in communications technology, while Rachel's astrophysics background included practical knowledge of sensor arrays and detection systems. I need to tell you something about myself, Sarah began, and then I'm going to ask for your help with something that might seem impossible. Over the next 10 minutes, she explained her true identity, her former role as a fleet commander, and the current situation with the Andromedan agents. She watched their expressions change from disbelief to amazement to determination. So you're telling us, David said slowly, that aliens are real, you used to fight space battles, and now other aliens are hunting you on our campus. That's an accurate summary, yes. And you want our help to deal with these agents? Rachel asked. I can't call for military backup without violating my retirement terms. I can't run because they'll eventually track me down wherever I go. So I need to handle this situation using the resources I have available. Which is us, Emma said. A bunch of college students. Not just any college students, Sarah corrected. You're some of the most intelligent and creative people I've ever worked with. And you have something my former crew never had. What's that? Marcus asked, complete unpredictability. Military personnel think in terms of established protocols and standard operating procedures, but you approach problems from angles that no trained operative would expect. Jessica grinned. She's saying we're going to out-weird the aliens. Essentially, yes. The Andromedans are expecting me to respond like a military commander. Instead, we're going to respond like college students with too much creativity and not enough sense. Sarah activated her scanner and projected a holographic map of the campus, showing the locations of the 7 Andromedan agents as red dots scattered across various buildings. They're conducting a systematic search, she explained. 3 teams of 2 agents each plus 1 coordinator. Standard military search pattern. They expect me to either hide or run, which means they're prepared for those responses. What are they not prepared for? David asked. An offensive operation conducted by civilians using improvised tactics and university resources. Rachel studied the holographic display. These red dots, are those their current positions? Updated in real time. My scanner can track Andromedan biosignatures anywhere on campus. Then we know where they are, but they don't know where we are, Emma observed. That's a significant advantage. Exactly. And we're going to use that advantage to turn them from hunters into the hunted. Sarah outlined her plan. It was audacious, improvised, and relied heavily on her friend's willingness to participate in something that could be genuinely dangerous. But it was also the kind of unexpected strategy that might actually work. Marcus, I need you to hack into the campus network and take control of all the electronic systems. Lighting, security cameras, automated doors, everything. That's completely illegal, Marcus said. I could be expelled. You could also help save Earth from a potential alien threat, Sarah pointed out. I'm hoping that provides some moral justification. Marcus grinned. Yeah, okay. Fighting alien spies definitely counts as justifiable hacking. Give me 20 minutes. David, can you access the chemistry lab and create some non-lethal but highly disorienting compounds? Something that would interfere with Andromedan sensory systems? I can make smoke bombs with added infrared and electromagnetic interference properties, basically blinding them across multiple spectra simultaneously. Perfect. Emma, I need you to jury-rig a high-powered communications array using the observatory's equipment, something capable of broadcasting on Andromedan frequencies. What kind of signal do you want me to broadcast? A surrender message, in perfect Andromedan dialect. Emma's eyes lit up with understanding. You're going to fake your own capture? I'm going to convince them that they've already won, which will make them careless. Rachel, you're going to help me coordinate the operation using the observatory's sensor equipment. I can interface the university's radio telescope with your scanner, Rachel said. Create a real-time tactical display that covers the entire campus. And what about me? Jessica asked. You're going to do the most dangerous job of all. You're going to be the bait. 20 minutes later, Marcus had successfully penetrated the campus network and gained control of every electronic system in the university. David had produced 6 smoke bombs that would create electromagnetic chaos while remaining relatively harmless to human physiology. Emma had transformed the observatory's radio equipment into a sophisticated alien communications array. Andromedan surrender protocol uploaded, Emma reported. When I broadcast this message, it will sound like you're formally surrendering to their authority and requesting immediate transport off-world, which should cause them to converge on the transmission point, Rachel added, watching the tactical display. They'll want to secure you quickly before anyone else realizes what's happening. Exactly, and that's when we hit them with everything we've got. Sarah looked at her friends, feeling a mixture of pride and concern. Are you all sure about this? Once we start, there's no backing down. These agents will consider you legitimate threats. Good, Marcus said from his position at the computer terminal. I've always wanted to be considered a legitimate threat by aliens. Besides, David added, checking his improvised smoke bombs, how many people get the chance to save the world during their freshman year? Sarah smiled, remembering why she had fallen in love with humanity's boundless courage and creativity. Her friends were scared but determined, inexperienced but brilliant, civilian but utterly fearless when their principles were at stake. All right, she said, activating her communicator to send final position updates to her team. Let's show these Andromedans what human college students can accomplish when they're properly motivated. The battle for Sarah's freedom was about to begin, fought not with starships and plasma cannons, but with university infrastructure and undergraduate ingenuity. It was perhaps the most unconventional military operation in galactic history. And for the first time in months, Sarah felt completely confident in her chances of victory. The operation began at 11:47 p.m., when Jessica walked calmly across the main quad, carrying Sarah's modified communicator and broadcasting the fake surrender message on Andromedan frequencies. To any observer, she looked like a student heading back to her dorm after a late study session. To the 7 alien agents monitoring campus communications, she appeared to be Commander Sarah Chen walking directly into their trap. From the observatory, Sarah watched the tactical display as all 7 red dots began converging on Jessica's position. They're taking the bait, she reported to her team through their improvised communication network. All agents moving toward the quad. Electromagnetic interference ready, David confirmed from his position near the chemistry building. I can blind their sensors across a 2-block radius whenever you give the signal. Campus network fully compromised, Marcus added from the computer science lab. I have control of every electronic system on university property. What do you want me to hit first? Wait for my signal, Sarah said, tracking the alien agent's movement patterns. Emma, how's the communications array? Fully operational. I can jam their internal communication frequencies or broadcast false information on command. Rachel worked beside Sarah at the modified radio telescope, fine-tuning their sensor coverage. I'm reading detailed biosignatures on all 7 targets. Their formation suggests they plan to surround the transmission point and close in simultaneously. Perfect. That's exactly what we want them to do. Sarah watched Jessica reach the center of the quad, where a large fountain provided both acoustic cover and visual concealment. The Andromedan agents had formed a loose circle around the area, approaching from multiple directions with professional precision. "They're almost in position," Sarah reported. "Jessica, you can drop the communicator and get clear." "Copy that. Exiting the area now." Jessica casually tossed the communicator into the fountain and walked away, maintaining the appearance of a student who had simply stopped to make a phone call. The Andromedans wouldn't detect her deception until they reached the transmission source and found only an abandoned device. "All agents within 50 meters of the target zone," Rachel confirmed. "They're committed to the approach. Marcus, kill all the lights. Emma, jam their communications. David, deploy the smoke bombs." The campus plunged into darkness as Marcus shut down the electrical grid. Simultaneously, Emma's jamming signal cut off the agents' ability to coordinate with each other, while David's smoke bombs detonated around the quad, filling the area with dense clouds that blocked visual, infrared, and electromagnetic sensors. The Andromedans found themselves suddenly blind, deaf, and isolated in the middle of what had seemed like a simple capture operation. "Phase 2, Sarah announced. "Marcus, activate the emergency lighting in strobing mode. Make it random and disorienting." Campus emergency lights began flashing in chaotic patterns, creating a strobe effect that would be particularly disturbing to Andromedan visual systems. The aliens stumbled through the smoke and flickering lights, their careful formation completely broken. "Emma, broadcast the evacuation alarm on all frequencies. I want them to think the entire campus is responding to their presence." Air raid sirens began wailing across the university as Emma activated every emergency alert system simultaneously. To the confused Andromedans, it would seem like their covert operation had somehow triggered a massive security response. "They're trying to regroup near the library," Rachel reported, tracking the scattered red dots on her display. "3 agents moving toward the main building. David, can you get smoke coverage to that area?" "Already on it. Deploying reserves now." More smoke bombs detonated around the library as the 3 agents tried to find shelter from the chaos. They were now completely separated from their companions and operating without communication or sensor data. "Phase 3, Sarah said. "Marcus, I need you to activate every automated system on campus simultaneously. Sprinklers, ventilation fans, automatic doors, maintenance robots, everything." Water began spraying from fire suppression systems while industrial fans created howling winds that blew the smoke in unpredictable directions. Automatic doors opened and closed randomly, adding mechanical noise to the acoustic chaos. The campus maintenance robots, designed for cleaning duties, began moving through the area with their lights flashing and motors whirring. The effect was like being caught in a technological hurricane. The Andromedans, trained for military operations in controlled environments, had no framework for dealing with this kind of systematic chaos. 2 agents are trying to retreat toward the parking area, Rachel announced. "They're attempting to reach their extraction point. Emma, can you interfere with their transportation?" "If they're using standard Andromedan vehicles, yes." Broadcasting a shutdown signal now. Across the campus, several cars in the visitor parking lot suddenly died as Emma's signal disabled their alien-modified engines. The 2 retreating agents found themselves stranded with no way to call for backup. "All 7 agents are now isolated and disoriented," Sarah reported. "Time for the final phase. Jessica, are you in position?" "Ready when you are," Jessica replied from her concealed location near the administration building. "Begin the surrender broadcast. Make it sound completely convincing." Emma activated a new message, this one featuring Jessica's voice speaking perfect Andromedan. To the alien agents, it would sound like Commander Sarah Chen was voluntarily surrendering and requesting immediate extraction to prevent further civilian casualties. The psychological effect was immediate. The Andromedans, believing they had successfully captured their target despite the chaos, began attempting to rally and secure the area. But every time they tried to move, Marcus activated new systems to harass and confuse them. "They're completely demoralized," Rachel observed. "Biosignatures show extreme stress and disorientation. I don't think they even know where they are anymore." Sarah activated her personal communicator and broadcast a message on open Andromedan frequencies, speaking in their language with perfect diplomatic protocol. "Andromedan Reconnaissance Team, this is Commander Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force. Your covert operation has been detected and neutralized by civilian security systems. You have 30 seconds to withdraw from this planet before I report your presence to the Galactic Council as a violation of the Earth Non-Interference Treaty. The response was immediate. All 7 red dots began moving rapidly toward the campus perimeter, their tactical formation abandoned in favor of immediate retreat. "They're running," Marcus said with obvious satisfaction. 7 highly trained alien agents just got beaten by a bunch of college students with access to the campus computer system. "Don't get overconfident," Sarah warned, though she was smiling. "They'll report back to their superiors, but hopefully they'll report that I'm still here and still protected by Earth's defenses." Within 10 minutes, Sarah's scanner confirmed that all Andromedan biosignatures had left the area. The immediate threat was over, though the larger political implications would need to be addressed later. As her friends gathered in the observatory to celebrate their victory, Sarah felt a profound sense of completion. For months, she had been trying to learn what it meant to be a normal human teenager. Tonight, she had discovered something even more valuable. She had learned what it meant to be part of a human community. Her friends hadn't helped her because of military duty or political obligation. They had risked themselves because they cared about her as a person and because they believed in protecting something they valued. "So what happens now?" Jessica asked as they watched the sunrise from the observatory dome. "Do you go back to commanding fleets?" "Eventually," Sarah said. "But first I think I need to finish my education. It turns out there are some things you can only learn in college." "Like what?" Sarah looked at her friends. Marcus still glowing with pride from his successful hack. David examining the residue from his smoke bombs. Emma fine-tuning her communications array. Rachel analyzing the tactical data they had gathered, and Jessica simply smiling with the satisfaction of a job well done. Like how to work with a team where everyone contributes their unique skills by choice rather than by command structure. Like how to solve problems using creativity instead of overwhelming force. Like how to protect something because you love it, not because it's your duty. "Those are pretty valuable lessons," Rachel said. "They are, and I have a feeling I'm going to need them when I go back to active duty." Sarah's communicator chimed with a priority message from Admiral Torres. "Impressive work, Commander." Andromedan agents reported that Earth's defensive capabilities are more sophisticated than previously estimated. They've recommended against further covert operations in this sector. The Galactic Council is officially extending your educational leave for 1 additional year. Congratulations on your successful civilian defense operation. Sarah showed the message to her friends, who cheered at the news that she would be staying at the university. "1 more year of college life," Marcus said. "Think you can handle it?" Sarah looked out at the campus below, where maintenance crews were already working to restore normal operations after the night's chaos. Students were beginning to emerge from their dorms, wondering why the sprinkler systems had activated and why there were strange scorch marks around the fountain. It looked like exactly the kind of